Welcome to HR2025-2026 Business Restructuring with me, Ribea Elise, right? Today we want to only listen to what we rephrased in our very first video for this discussion. What are legislation responding to when it responds to the office business? And then also, how does the legislation then therefore respond when it responds to the office business communication line? Like we've mentioned in our first video, that are not only a computerized telephone signal line in your business office, but that are the complete business function that are built in the complete country's acknowledgement, right? And when we acknowledge our countries today in the International Legislative Acknowledgement Office, right? That have to be acknowledged when we are introduced to television on an international level, right? We then, my sis Queen Antoinette always say the word right, and today I'm now the whole time probably thinking about Ribea University a lot, and that's why I'm now by the word right the whole time, because she's been studying legislation. I'm in human resources, and I'm therefore today in the discussion when I talk mostly in legislative acknowledgement, acknowledging my mother in the womb. There are Queen Mom University, Queen Mom Universe, Anna George Philander School of Color, Afrikaans Duitse Journey Translations. And while the communication are building in South Africa, and while we have to acknowledge ourselves in the birth womb in the communication line, that are computerized office, that are office that have to legislatively adhere to its business responsibility, right? Its business responsibility are not only when your business are in retail, that you are only responsible to focus on the retail service acknowledgement on your business. It is an acknowledgement to the complete womb acknowledgement, right? And today we don't want to focus a lot on womb acknowledgement. When your retail business supplies for the community and it serves the community, and we have a retail business like a grocery store in different parts of the community, and the grocery store only supply and import goods based on the households in the community, right? Based on serving in accordance to legislation, but also in accordance to womb acknowledgement. And therefore, when we today focus on what does legislation respond to, when it responds to the office business, we want to focus on the complete structural office that are the community acknowledgement that your business are holding business in a certain community or city, or acknowledged on an international level, right? What does your business respond to? It then therefore respond to the national acknowledgement, legislative acknowledgement that adhere to all the legislative responsibilities in your country, and it then therefore also have a responsibility to respond internationally in acknowledgement to how your business are built. Let's say your business are a fashion industry like Zara Fashion. Zara Fashion are today building in American television, New York Fashion Week, and it's therefore building in a communication line in New York City that are exactly building in Africa. The communication line for me to Ribea Elise on this day are the $1 million listing New York television communication, also $1 million listing Los Angeles, where my brother King Richard Philander's voice I acknowledged, and the $1 million listing Los Angeles television communication, in acknowledgement to our womb's journey, in acknowledgement to all that South Africa implemented while we were born in South Africa in these 100 years, in acknowledgement to where the communication are then acknowledged legislatively in America, in New York City, right? I specify specifically on New York City today. Why? Because we have a thorough communication line that are for us a thorough computerized telephone line that are acknowledging us that were born in South Africa, where we are at an international level. So I'm in Auckland, New Zealand. My sis Queen Antoinette are in England, or my sis Antoinette are in England in the council office employed under the office legislation, but as a council employee, the England council office have a responsibility to legislatively adhere to sis Queen Antoinette or to sis Antoinette's employment in the council office in England, but it's not our duty it's not our duty to request that they adhere to Antoinette's employment in the office, right? So when we are employed in a business office, then we have a seat located on a computerized board in a Chinese country. And when your seat are located like my sis Antoinette's seat in England office, then it's a legislative responsibility for the council office in England to respond right to the office business. When Africa are today having to be built on a communication that acknowledge our Queen Mum University and Georgeville and the house in South Africa, and the communication are today adhered to and legislatively building in New York City, and in the families that have traveled to America, the African families that have traveled to America, that have traveled to South Africa, and the journeys communication line that are telephone line, then the journeys communication that are the Zara office responsibility, then have to acknowledge the African continent in acknowledgement, right, to how the communication are then building office. So how we therefore then have to respond to the office business communication line that are today holding office in our businesses are the legislative acknowledgement that have to adhere to all the departments in your business, right? That has to adhere to all the departmental processes that your business are responsible for in its due years, and that your business have to respond to in its years, right? And when your business have to respond to the office business on a departmental level, then it has to acknowledge the employees in her department that are employed at the business. Why the employees? Because then it becomes constructed adherence, right, under the Constitution, right? And when it comes, and when we legislatively have to adhere, being business directors and the communication line that were not only a departmental telephone line, but that are now the computerized office, and the computerized office are held under her departmental office, and her departmental office then acknowledges the employees on a constructed educational, constitutional level, then under the Constitution that the legislative court have to adhere to, they have a responsibility to then make sure that the Zara office in New York City are responsible for the communication that are then therefore directly linked to the Zara office in different African countries, right? And therefore the communication line that for us are today different functions that we talk about, right? We talked about the television function that are the communication line of our businesses, that are your business office itself, like me, Ribea Elise's business, that are a Vogue business, right? When the communication line are telephone line, the communication line then becomes a computer. The computer then are differentiated into different departments. The departmental levels then acknowledge different employees. Different employees, they then represent also the countries that they are employed at the business in the business legislative responsibility at, right? And while the business's legislative responsibility then have to legislatively adhere then under the constitutional right that the African continent are acknowledged in all that we hold business on an international level, then all businesses have a responsibility to send their communications to the African continent in a responsive way, right? So they shouldn't send communications that when you open the app, like on me, Ribea Elise's communication, thank you China for the we transfer option, yeah. And when businesses send to Africa communication line that can't open in, that gives an error the whole time, but it wants to connect the business in Africa to the business on an international country, then the businesses have to be responsible, and they have to send a responsive communication line that can respond, right? That can respond in acknowledgement to all that we learn in the office business. So that is what we then have to adhere to when we acknowledge the office business. How does the business communication line then respond? It has to respond responsible, right? It has to be in a responsible way that businesses acknowledge one another in the business office, right? It has to be in a respectful way, no matter the circumstances that we are introduced to, that the African people might find themselves in, right? No matter the different household circumstances, our legislative responsibility are to respond to that are being responsible, right? That are under the office business acknowledgement, when we acknowledge Queen Mum Universe Anna George Philander School of Color Afrikaans Duitse translation, Anna Prada acknowledgement, Queen Mum Universe Anna with pride, then the business communications would honor one another in the communication line that are then therefore acknowledged in our businesses. And that is what we want to only mention in this video of HR 2025-2026 Business Restructuring with me, Ribea Elise. Our legislative responsibility, how to respond in the office business, and how to therefore be responsible in all that the office business have to acknowledge an international acknowledgement.